Hello my lovely art peeps. Today I thought we would do a sampler collection in a new color palette. So this is Denise Love and I've got a new class on Skillshare. It's oil and coal wax, creating abstracts with color palettes inspired by interiors. And I find interiors inspiring because I have a degree in interior design and I did kitchen and bath design for years and years, and I've always just gravitated towards the spaces that we live in and the colors we choose to surround ourselves with. And so I've got lots of these yummy inspiring books kind of hanging out around my house because I love to look at them. And it seems like every time I pull one of these Hans Blomquist books, this one is In the Mood for Color, Perfect Palettes for Creative Interiors. It seems like every time I open one of his books and I sit on the porch and I just start to kind of flip through and just let my mind relax, some amazing idea comes to me. And this book has again produced a great idea for me. So I thought, you know, it's so hard to come up with color palettes. We all struggle with this until we really nail down our signature palettes that we love to work in. And sometimes even then we get into ruts or we want to change. How amazing is it to pull from something that exists out there rather than just trying to create stuff out of my mind? So I am pulling from this book today. I really loved this color palette on this photo up here on this page. This is a really pretty kind of set of dusty blues, some khaki, white, maybe some dark indigo, and so that's exactly what I've pulled together. There's maybe even a tad of lavender if I get real close in there, but I didn't pull lavender into this, but you could. So I have already pulled my paints out and mixed them with the cold wax. I'm using the Gamblin cold wax, and I've already added 2 drops of the Galkid Light into my mixture, so it's about a 50-50 wax to paint mixture with the tiny bit of Galkid. And the Galkid is going to speed our drying time for us. It's just an additive in there that helps with that. So I've pulled the titanium white Winsor Newton. I've also pulled the Gamblin Titan Buff. And then for this yummy dusty blue, I've got Old Holland's blue gray. And then I've also pulled Winsor Newton Indigo. I'm kind of obsessed with indigo lately, so when I saw this I thought, haha, I could pull in that indigo. This could be like a color that I gravitate to a lot because there was another color palette that I did in class that I just totally didn't expect it to be as beautiful as it was, and I thought, this is a color I definitely love. So I've already mixed those. That's my inspiration photo that we're going to be creating from today. And I have already pulled out a piece of paper that I have cut into 4s. This is the Arches oil, and I'm using the larger pad, the 12-inch by 16-inch pad. Because this is already prepped for oil paint. It's ready to go. I don't have to worry about adding a couple coats of primer or anything to it. It's already ready for my oil paint. So that is my go-to for painting with the oils. And then I've also got a couple tools out over here that I'm going to be using. I've got my bowl scraper, and then I've also got several of these, which are Craft Smart Premium Texture Sheets, and I found these at the craft store. And there's lots of different, these come in little packs of 3 and 4, so there's lots of different patterns and stuff. I really love this chevron. I love this that looks like little stones. I really love this little zigzag chevron kind of look there. So I've got one of these out to give me some pattern options. And I also need a piece of Punchella. Punchella is my very favorite stencil. So this is the stuff that they cut sequins out of. It's just metallic sequin paper that's left over. It's called Punchella. So I'm going to be using that. It's my favorite, so I know this is one that I always want to pull out. I almost want to get some new punchinella because I used this stuff to the point that I actually have started breaking some of the little round pieces there. So I'm like, oh, favorite stencil. And then I've also got a catalyst wedge that I can drag through if I decide I want to do any kind of mark making and dragging. And my very favorite mark making tool is a clay tool, and it's got a real sharp edge on one end, so I'm going to be using this to draw some shapes in. And then I've also got some shop towels over here, paper towels, that I can use to wipe and clean with. So now that we are ready to get started, I'm going to put our paint on, do some texturing, and just see what can we create today. And I love that I'm not stuck at the very beginning wondering what colors I'm going to use because I've already got them set. So let's just see what we can make today. So I'm just going to start getting my initial layer down. If I had wanted to, I could have taken any kind of mark making tool and I could have started off mark making on my piece. This is a really nice way to get rid of white page paralysis when you're looking at the white page and you're like, oh, I don't know where to start. What do I want to do? Just start scribbling on that paper, and that's how I get rid of that kind of paralysis that starts you out. And then I just start spreading paint. So I'm going to start off, I'm just putting a mixture of that Titan and that white on here because, you know, it looked like stained dirty walls on our picture, our inspiration piece. So I'm just mixing those as we're spreading them. And I encourage you to have a piece of junk paper left over, like just pick a piece of the Arches oil and say, okay, this is my junk paper, because in the end you're going to have paper left over, and we can use the leftover paint on that junk piece of paper so we're not wasting paint. So I do encourage you to just have a piece of junk paper ready so you're not throwing paint out. And funny enough, you know, those junk pieces, several times have ended up being my most favorite when I was done. So don't throw the paint out. The thing that you do, the last thing that you do with that paint may be like the masterpiece. And I'm putting the paint pretty thin, but I am going ahead and getting most of my page covered just because I want to. I could have gone ahead and started working other colors in. I could go ahead and do that here. And if you're concerned about, you know, the paint mixing on your spreader, then you can, you know, wipe that paint off as you're getting going. At this moment, I'm not super worried about it. I'm just going to start laying color down and seeing what we can get. I'm not trying to worry about composition at this point. I don't want to stress myself out when I'm just kind of creating and experimenting with little sampler pieces. Everybody creates art a little differently though, so you just kind of do you. And a lot of times I create, and I talk about it quite a bit in this class, creating art with the intent of cutting it up, because you don't know how many times, you know, you're sitting down to create and you're trying to make a masterpiece and you're trying to get it all perfect, and it's really stressful creating art when you've got that much pressure on yourself. And if you'll just remove some of that pressure and think, okay, I'm not trying to create anything amazing at this point. I'm trying to create with the thought that maybe I'm going to reimagine this into something that is amazing. Right now I'm just dragging some of this paint, making some interesting texture. I love doing that. So you kind of get to where you're like, ooh, I love this technique, and then you try it and you're like, ooh, look what I got. See, look at all that texture that this creates. So yeah, so a lot of times I don't create with something specific in mind. I want to create with the thought of, you know what, I might cut this up. And then I'm not worried about what I got as I was creating, because it's not as important that it be something amazing, because I know I'm cutting it up later. I'm kind of feeling like I want the pieces to be a little bit lighter with dark touches kind of seeping in. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment, just seeping these colors in at the edge. Because I did a piece where I did that on one of the other projects that we did, and I'm like, oh, so amazing. So I'm like, oh, we need to practice more of that. Let's just, you know, pull that color in from the edge. Let's pull that color in with like some stenciling and just see, you know, how did we do. So I also might go ahead and do some mark making. We can keep adding paint. That's what I like about the oil and coal wax. It's kind of like spreading frosting, and you can keep adding layers, and we can start mark making and layering right at the very beginning. I don't want really thick layers here at the beginning. And then, you know, if you want, you get too much going on and you're like, oh, things are getting muddy, then set it aside and let that dry overnight, and it'll be ready for you to then work on tomorrow. It'll be dry enough for you to add more layers. And a lot of times I do that. I will add, days and days will go by, and I'll just continue to add layers of paint as the days go on and I get new dry layers. Because the thing about the oil and coal wax, if you don't like one layer, just wait a day and cover it up with another layer, and you just get such amazing things by continuing to add stuff. You know, so it's like, it's never really finished until you're like, okay, now I love it. Ooh, that's kind of fun. I like that darkness I got going on in here. And you know what I really love about doing stuff like this? Peeling the tape. It's amazing, because you're like, I don't know, is this working? I can't tell. You peel that tape and you're like, whoa. Alright, just layering in some more color. A little bit, just to see. Maybe we can come in and start doing... Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. That's why I like these stencils. You can get into really thick areas and create something amazing. Now, if the paint's too thick and you move the stencil, it'll be kind of like a smudge, but still it's pretty cool. And the fun thing about these is just take your paper towel and just wipe it right off. Doesn't really matter if there's a little color left in there. I could also come through and just see, you know, do I want to see if I can have, look how cool that is. Yes we do. Yes, we like that. I like the little bit of drag. It's kind of interesting, adds something super cool, another little element to see. Ooh, that's really cool on that one. Look at that. Let's just go all the way down. Ooh, I like that. And again, I'm just wiping my tools off, not worrying about any of the color. And with this, I actually, let me just wipe this off real quick. With this, you know what I think I'm going to do? I like smearing some of the paint through the stencil, so I'm going to do that with this Yummy Indigo. But I also, if the stencil is thick enough, if the paint is thick enough, I can just kind of shove that stencil down into the paint, and when I pick it up, it kind of picks up paint that's on there. Like if I took this over here and I just kind of rubbed that stencil down and picked it up, we get the stencil impression. And on several pieces that I ended up doing, see that right there? My favorite, kind of my favorite there. That's pretty cool. I like the impression. So you don't always have to put it down and push paint through it. but pushed paint through is really cool, and I like doing it where it's not exact. Like I don't have to fill every hole. I like it to be kind of a little bit messy. And then again with the stencil, I just lay it down on a paper towel and take another paper towel and clean my stencil off. So I always clean the stencils after I use them, so I'll get that one clean in a moment. And definitely want to be wearing gloves when you're doing stuff like this, because look at the mess that I would have made all over my hands, and oil paint is hard to get off. You can also paint on here with a palette knife if you want. You can look at it and say, okay, am I done, or what else does it need? And we can paint some more on here. Another favorite technique that I love is taking my bowl scraper and actually pounding it into the piece, because you get some really cool stripes as a texture. So I like doing that. And if you've got any color on here, you can then, relay some of that color onto your piece, like I kind of did on that one. You can go straight, you can go on angles, super fun. And then we can always layer more paint on top if we're like, okay, now I need some more. Or you can say, ho, that's finished, let's see what we got. So I do actually love these. And I might continue working with this color palette. Look how much paint I have left over. But I kind of want to see what we got and see, do I like these? And sometimes I cannot tell until I peel the tape. So I do think at the moment that we're done with this as my sampler piece. And let's just see what we got. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be perfect, because I created these with the intent of, hey, I might cut these up. All right, let's get the right piece right. Which piece did I put on first? Oh, I love peeling the tape, because then we can see what did we actually create. I was trying to not get the paper dirty, but I did. That's okay though. I can trim these down like a real tight border with a paper cutter after these are dry. So I'm not super worried about that. If you get any on your fingers as you're peeling, because the paint on the tape is still wet, I like having these little microfiber cloths around, because it's the best for just getting everything off your hands. And if you wait till the next day, you wouldn't have this problem, but I kind of want to see what I got while we're all together. Oh, see, now look at that. Now, I love this one. I really love this one. This edge up here is amazing. Oh, look at that. Let's see, if we turn it around, then I'm really digging this one. I like the stripes coming in from the side. And look at this one. It looks amazing this way too. Oh, that's what oh, see, now this way, this one's kind of speaking to me. Okay, this is what I love about little abstracts. Once you make it, start turning it around and seeing what you got. And I discovered on some of my other projects that I liked starting light and building the little bit of dark on top. That ended up being some of my favorite pieces. So that's kind of what I was trying to do here. And I think I was successful in creating a couple pieces that I wouldn't mind framing up. This one, love. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed checking out how I might use a color palette inspired from an interior. And if we look at our inspiration piece real quick, you can see that I got real close to my inspiration photo with these pieces. So I hope you enjoy giving that a try out. So I hope you check out my new class, Oil and Coal Wax, Creating Abstract Art with Color Palettes Inspired by Interiors. I got lots of fun project and ideas for you in that class, and I'll see you next time.